Yo, for the first time in 6 months, long-term holders have started buying Bitcoin again. And the capitulation metrics look like we've bottomed. You've heard that right. We have a lot of data to look at on today's show. But back to the bigger question. While most people are expecting 2026 to be a bear market for Bitcoin, what if it already happened in 2025 and Bitcoin is primed to explode in 2026? Let's get straight into today's source material. But before we do that, let's talk about that for a second. Because again, fundamentally, ladies and gentlemen, we're one day before the end of the year. And if Bitcoin stays at these prices, by definition, 2025 was already a bear market year to date performance. So, is 2026 going to be a bear market as well? Again, that would be unprecedented in Bitcoin's history. We've never had 2 years back to back that have been in the red. Now, does that mean it's going to happen? We don't know, but some of this data looks quite interesting to say the least. All right, everybody. So, first article by CoinDesk. Bitcoin whales have been the main accumulators in the 80,000 range. Goes on to say Bitcoin whales and hodlers with at least 1,000 BTC have been the dominant buyers since the price of the largest cryptocurrency bottomed near 80,000 at the end of November, according to Glassnode data. They remain the strongest accumulators as Bitcoin trades just below 90,000. According to Glassnode data, the 1,000 to 10,000 Bitcoin cohort is the only group showing sustained accumulation with an accumulation trend score close to 1. The metric breaks down the buying and selling behavior across wallet cohorts, measuring both the size of entities and the net amount of Bitcoin they have acquired over the past 15 days. A score closer to 1 indicates accumulation, while a score closer to 0 signals distribution. The data suggests that long-term hodlers have been accumulating Bitcoin in the $80,000 range, a price level Bitcoin has not traded in for an extended period compared with other price buckets. This behavior contrasts sharply with smaller holders, all of whom show varying degrees of distribution. Given that the crypto fear and greed index has remained in fear or extreme fear for roughly the past 30 days, this selling pressure from smaller entities likely reflects capitulation. Meanwhile, the 10,000 plus BTC whale cohort was aggressively buying when Bitcoin traded near 80,000 in late November, though they have begun to slow over recent weeks. Still, as a cohort, they are not yet selling, which was the dominant behavior. The BTC price topped 100,000 around mid year. So, again, what is this telling you? I mean, this goes back to the thesis that we've been talking about all year long, right? That why is the Bitcoin price going sideways? Is it a coincidence that the first year that Bitcoin essentially acted like a stable coin was the year after the introduction of the Bitcoin spot ETF? You see the behavior of Bitcoin every single day on the weekdays like clockwork. 10 a.m. comes around and the Bitcoin price either pumps or dumps 3% and then goes back to its baseline. Like it literally happened. Like it's the wildest thing. We saw it a couple days ago. Bitcoin was at 87, 86K, went to 91,000, 90K. Within 30 minutes to an hour, it was back at 86K, 88K. That's not natural. I saw a wick the other day on Binance. The wick went all the way down to $25,000. Like, what the hell is going on? Like, $25,000 Bitcoin, I might add, right? So again, something strange is happening. I don't think it's that strange. I think what it comes down to is Wall Street is doing what Wall Street does best, and they're trying to scare you out of your bags. And if you look at the on-chain data, it seems like anybody who has 100 to 1,000 Bitcoin, which is a very few number of people. It's not that many people. Fred Krueger actually posted the exact number. I'm going to pull it up. Um, those people are actually buying Bitcoin at these price levels. And actually, here is the kind of distribution curve, which I thought was really interesting, which is basically Bitcoin ownership, people, not addresses. So BTC held, estimated only 1,000 people fit into that category. People with 100 Bitcoin or more, only 5,000 people fit into that category. People with 10 Bitcoin or more, only 100,000 people fit into that category. BTC held, 1 Bitcoin or more, a million, and et cetera, et cetera. So again, very kind of interesting data. The top cohorts, which I find interesting, what he calls the control layer or the power layer. Well, the control layer or the power layer have been buying Bitcoin at the $80,000 level, and they don't believe that 2026, by their actions, and on-chain data is not exactly 100% reliable, that, hey, 2026 might be a green year. Now, some more data for you guys. Here's Matt Siegel, and he says long-term hodlers turn net accumulators, easing a major Bitcoin headwind and ending. For now, the largest sell pressure event from this cohort since 2019. Again, long-term hodler supply, net positive change. Again, the largest sell pressure event from this cohort since 2019. Anyways, here is the CoinDesk article. Long-term holders turn net accumulators, easing a major Bitcoin headwind. So that's right, ladies and gentlemen. Long-term holders of Bitcoin have shifted back into accumulation for the first time since July. Long-term hodlers, defined as entities that have held Bitcoin for at least 155 days, have accumulated roughly 33,000 BTC on a 30-day net basis. Selling from long-term holders has been one of the two of the largest sources of sell pressure this year, along with minor capitulation. Long-term hodlers were a major source of distribution, while miners are typically forced to sell Bitcoin while mining at a loss. Since it takes 155 days for short-term hodlers to transition into long-term hodlers, this suggests that buyers from the past 6 months are now becoming long-term hodlers and are outpacing the distribution. Long-term hodlers sold more than 1 million BTC during the 36% correction from October, marking the largest sell pressure event from the cohort since 2019, a period that ultimately coincided with the bear market low that year, with Bitcoin at around $3,200. The October sell-off was the third largest long-term holder distribution phase since the current cycle began in 2023. The first occurred in March 2024 when Bitcoin reached a peak of 73K and over 700,000 BTC were sold, while the second took place that November when Bitcoin reached 100,000 and more than 750,000 BTC were distributed by long-term hodlers. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. These two data points alone is making Nico feel bullish again. And Nico isn't feeling bullish because Opti's back. Nico's feeling bullish because I see the signs. I see these articles about the whales. I see these hot articles about the long-term holders. And, they're saying, hey, wait a second. Uh, you know, it might be a good idea to get back in the market again. Now, I don't want to jinx it because generally when you say these types of things, you jinx things, but this is a good sign. Another good sign as well is over the last 2 weeks or so, last 3 weeks, we've been talking from a place of uncertainty here at Simply Bitcoin. And that much uncertainty, that much doubt is the perfect situation, right? Think about it from the Wall Street cheat sheet, right? And it breaks you down the psychology of how you feel at every price level, the euphoric top, the desperation at the bottom. Um, what we felt this cycle was not really a cycle based on on euphoria and then desperation to follow. It was a cycle that peaked on apathy, and then what potentially could have followed it was this. If you peak on apathy, that means that you lose hope, right? That you means that, oh, this isn't going to go into euphoric phase. And then you kind of go into the psychology of uncertainty, a psychology of perhaps confusion. I have another I have another chart for you guys, another data point. So this is, his name is literally Chad. So Chad says record levels of retail getting ripped off. If you view this from the institutional perspective, they really did get the transition they wanted. As little retail as possible in the actual asset. They will sell you the derivative instead, right? And here is capitulation metric, current price, right? So again, you know, Wall Street is some of the most sophisticated, well-funded, you know, you know, sophisticated, well-funded, deep capital markets in the world. And if you don't think that they're going to play these types of games on you and beat you at those types of games, I think you've been sleeping at the wheel. Here's this last post. It kind of refers back to the article. Is showing you guys Bitcoin long-term hodlers have stopped selling for the first time since July. Maybe celebrating too early. Maybe that flips again and we go back into a free fall, you know, back to the 50, 60K.
Can't
range.
even help yourself. You even when you see some bullish on-chain data, you go bearish.
But
amazing.
I'll be honest with you guys. Looking at this is the first positive bit of news that I've seen that has actually, you know, piqued my curiosity. I'm actually interested when I see this type of information, and then thinking about what my own mental psychology was over the last month or so. This has me interested, man. And then I'm going to pass the million sack question to you, Opti, and I'm going to hold you responsible. Has Bitcoin bottomed?
Well, obviously, I'm not the one to ask because I've stayed bullish this whole time. But look, you know, doing a little chart boying right now, it's doing exactly what I said it was going to do. Obviously, up to this point, I've been right. Where when we hit the 80K range, I was like, I don't think it's going to drop more. I think we're going to go sideways. And whether you believe trend lines or you just think they're magic TA lines, there is a kind of an uptrend building right now, and you could see it on the daily or the weekly. And if that's the case, you know, it did what I said it was going to do. It's done the exact same thing we've seen happen since the ETF launch, which is it goes up a little bit, it goes sideways, then it goes down, and then it goes sideways, and then it takes another leg up to a new kind of benchmark, and it just kind of repeats this pattern, which is why I kept saying I'm not that bearish. Yes, you know, Bitcoin price dropped, but I was just looking at where we are now. Again, I am fundamentally under the belief that the institutions have changed the kind of the momentum of the Bitcoin price. And that's why I was looking at it and being like, I don't see it dropping under this 80K range where we're at right now. I see it going sideways and maintaining this kind of market structure that we've seen recently kind of create itself since 2024. Now, when you see the on-chain data, obviously, I'm not the biggest on-chain data guy. You know, I respect Checkmatey out there. I know he's very big on, hey, it's the on-chain data that matters. It'll tell you everything that you need to know. I'm a little more skeptical of the on-chain data. I think it's good to look at that data to kind of maybe wrap your head around where we currently are in the market. But I'm always on the side of like, yeah, you're seeing what's happening on the network, but it doesn't really tell you what people are going to do. Because someone could wake up tomorrow and be like, look, I want to, you know, mass dump 10,000 coins right now because I'm just done with this. You know, you can't really see human psychology on the on-chain data per se of all the culmination of humans. You can see the culmination of people in Bitcoin on on-chain data, which is kind of why this is interesting to me as well, because as we've been covering all year long, We've seen literally like hundreds of thousands, if not close to 1 million coins hit the exchange. And this is why, even though sailors out here buying billions of dollars of Bitcoin, this is why the price has probably been so stagnant, is because we have seen this transition phase. Now, we obviously don't know exactly what these people that are sending Bitcoin to the exchanges are doing. There's been a lot of speculation. In the beginning of the year, it was something on the lines of, the cypherpunks are selling out now because Wall Street's here. That was kind of the first narrative. Then the next narrative that kind of came out is like, oh, a lot of these holders in Bitcoin are realizing they're gained. We saw a lot of old wallets from 2010, 2014 wake up, start, moving Bitcoin to exchanges. So maybe they're just locking in some gains here. Then the third narrative we saw was a lot of these OG holders are using the Wall Street products so that they can get, actually use their wealth, whether that's Bitcoin collateral, whether that's getting Bitcoin into ETFs. So there's more of like an inheritance, maybe some safety features behind that. So all of these narratives kind of built throughout the year, but one thing remained the same. We've been seeing a lot of selling of coins. Now, obviously, just because Bitcoin's hitting the exchange doesn't necessarily mean it's selling, or Bitcoin addresses are kind of moving. Long-term holder UTXOs are essentially, dying in the short term. Doesn't necessarily mean that they're selling Bitcoin, but it does give you a good idea of what Bitcoiners are thinking if you're looking at the on-chain data. Now, to see the kind of first headline, essentially, it confirms what I've been saying for the last couple of weeks, which is institutions are eating retail's lunch. This has been the most obvious thing I've seen all year long, where all my friends out here were essentially saying, hey, dude, you should have traded Bitcoin. October was the top at 126. If you sold then, bro, you could have bought lower. Yeah, obviously, in hindsight, I wish I did that, obviously. But what we're seeing now is exactly what we're seeing come out from all of the big banks. They are all trying to get Bitcoin positions right now. And I've just been on the fence, or rather on the side, for the last couple of weeks saying, look, I don't know what's going on with the price, but from kind of updating my mental models of what's going on currently in Bitcoin, with all of the bullish news we've seen, with all of the institutions and nation state game theory playing out right now, I think the best move was doing what the institutions were doing, which is this slow, methodical buy. Position yourself in the Bitcoin network because it's not going away. Bitcoin's not going to crash to zero now when we have literally all the biggest institutions, most of the wealthy people starting to embrace Bitcoin. I was like, the smartest move from my view is just continue to accumulate this Bitcoin, not trying to out-trade Wall Street algorithms, not trying to out-trade BlackRock and JP Morgan and, Jane Street. I'm like, look, I know myself well enough. I'm not a trader. I don't think I can out-trade these algorithms. I haven't been trading for 30 plus years. I had combos with some Bitcoin friends that literally were on Wall Street before I was born. And they're like, dude, you do not want to try to trade these, out-trade these guys. Like, just buy Bitcoin, take it into cold storage, and just continue to accumulate. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds perfect to me. Now, the data is showing us that the whales, 100, 2,000 plus holders are accumulating Bitcoin. Now, again, you guys know me. I'm not the biggest kind of fan of the smart money meme, because I think Bitcoiners are the smart money in general. But if you are watching the money, I would be watching what these wallets are doing. If they're accumulating now and no longer selling, to me, that signal that, yeah, we might have bottomed out. We might just be doing exactly what I said was going to do. We're going to go sideways, and then we're going to see another leg up. We're going to see another run happen here. Now, does that mean the 4-year cycle's over? Probably. I mean, look, it seems to me like 2026 is going to be bullish, because we already saw the bearish in 2025. So I'm on the fence here. I'm very willing to be wrong about this, but as days keep progressing, as blocks keep coming in, I feel like I'm more right by every day. As long as Bitcoin doesn't crash, then I think my thesis is correct. And I'm gonna be doing my victory lap over here, and I'm actually your quant here, guys. I actually know what's going on now. I really don't. I'm just following the data, doing the best I can here. But yeah, it does look like maybe we have bottomed out, especially like Bitcoin's a simple supply and demand, mechanism. if there is more buyers than sellers, then it has to go up. And by definition, we have bottomed out and we finally kind of flipped that switch. Though, if you go and look at one of those charts, it's like barely noticeable on the chart that we are net accumulators now. So it might still be early, but usually, you know, you follow the trend, you follow the momentum. And if that is the kind of emerging trend here, then I would say, yeah, it does seem like we bottomed out.
Let's see.
Dude, you can't even help yourself. Still bearish no matter what.
I mean,
Love it.
I mean, look, like, I'm not going to lie. Like, this is the first bit of positive information. And usually when something bottoms out, you don't know that it was the bottom until, you know, time has gone. But you do remember the feelings. And I think that this cycle is already different because we didn't have a euphoric peak. We didn't have the euphoria. We haven't felt euphoria since 21, really. Slight euphoria at the end of 24, heading into the euphoria was Trump winning the election, which is terrible. Like, from a Bitcoiner's perspective, like, it's like, okay, great, pro Bitcoin president, whoop-de-doo, but the price performed better under cackling Kamala, right? Like, that's not, you know, I would bring back Kamala Harris, bring back Joe Biden, an Operation Choke Point 2.0, because at least the number was going up. Under the first pro Bitcoin president, price has not performed very well. So I think maybe that perhaps was the euphoric phase. I know a lot of the like kind of altcoin shenanigans were going parabolic during that era as well. So again, that usually marks a top, but it wasn't a traditional top. It wasn't, you know, the traditional blow off tops that we see in Bitcoin. I'm also calling bullshit on the people that are saying, oh, Nico, that's never going to happen anymore because Bitcoin's market cap is too big. I'm calling utter BS on that narrative. And let me tell you why. We saw gold go parabolic.
And silver.
We saw silver go even more parabolic than gold. I think it started at like $20 a couple years ago, went up to like 120 something. Right?
No. It was like 35 for a long time from what I remember, and it went up to like 84. I actually didn't check silver.
It's like 120 something.
Silver's at 120 today. That's
no. I don't know if it's today.
No, it went to 84, bro.
Let me see. I literally looked at this the other day.
You're looking at something else. Maybe it's like
83,
futures.
83. You're right. No, but look, in 2020, it hit an all-time low of $12. So I think the million sat question is like, you know, should we rebrand to Simply Silver?
Yes. It's got a ring to it. Simply Silver. No. We are not silver bugs. I'm adamant against silver.
And I mean, if you take,
I love the utility of silver, but it's not money.
I mean, and if you take a look at gold, right? In 2018, it was $1,200. And right now it's at 4,341. And in the beginning of 25, I mean, gold has had a fantastic year. So again,
yeah, and on that, I think gold, and you guys could fact check me, but from what I remember, it's like gold added like 4 Bitcoin market caps this year. And we're all like, Bitcoin can't run anymore.
Yeah. So like I just, that narrative of like it's too large of an asset for it to go parabolic, I call bullshit on that. Like, I think silver's performance and gold's performance is an indication of that. Also, I think that if Bitcoin doesn't reach the market cap of gold, I would consider Bitcoin a failure. I think it is a superior asset and its characteristics, whether it's absolute scarcity, its ability for you to transact, censorship resistant qualities. I think it's a superior asset to gold, right? What is it?
Sorry, it wasn't you. This comment, Nico is a plan by JP Morgan to make people hate Bitcoin. Yeah, that's a banger. That's a banger.
That sweet Jamie Dimon money. Have you guys seen seen the clip from the Adam Newman show?
No.
Like, he shows up to the bank and he's like, you haven't seen it?
No, I don't know what that is.
Okay. Anyways, if you know, you know. But anyways, no, we're not employed by JP Morgan.
Hey, yo, Jamie, I like a paycheck. I'll take Jamie's paychecks here, dude. I'm probably sure you'll compensate us well. I'm with that.
Anyways, so yeah, I don't accept the narrative of this like Bitcoin's market cap is too big for it to go parabolic. It's just going to go side. No, I call bullshit on that. And I call bullshit on that as well because it's the common consensus. And because it's
so no longer diminishing returns, Maxi.
Nico's feeling bullish.
Wow. All right. It's over, guys. It's completely over. Sell it all. Nico's bullish again.
Nico's feeling bullish. Not only that, right? For Bitcoin to reach the market cap of gold, one Bitcoin would equate to $1.5 million per coin, right? We used to be like, yo, if Bitcoin reaches the market cap of gold, it would be
like 500
$1 million per coin. Now, if it reaches the market cap of gold, 1.5, right? So I mean, I don't know. What do you think?
I think it's going past gold's market cap. That's what I think.
I want to look it up. Hold it down while I look it up.
Oh man. No, but look. At this point, guys, I've been very consistent on my messaging. Yes, I was wrong on 2025. Yeah, I'll own up to that. I won't apologize for being wrong. I did remember saying that the other day, but you know, I'm a man. I'll admit when I was wrong. I was wrong on what was going to happen this year. Obviously, I couldn't really foresee everything that happened, but overall, my perspective has basically been the same. It's like the institutions are in control now. I think Bitcoin's going to go back or go past the gold market cap. I've always said we're going to, 7 figures per Bitcoin. I just, my timing was wrong. All right. It's not that I'm wrong. I'm just not right now. All right. I'm always right. I just wasn't right now. Okay. So that's my take and I stand by it.
Anyways, so I looked it up. Here are the precise numbers. At a market cap of 27.8 trillion, it would be $1.32 million per Bitcoin. At a market cap of 30.4 trillion, it would be 1.45 million per Bitcoin. So roughly between 1.3 and 1.5. And I think the base case here is I think that happens within the next 5 to 10 years.
Wow.
I think it could. I was talking to a family member the other day because they bought some Bitcoin north of 100K. And I was telling them, I said, like, yeah, you might have bought high for this cycle, whatever, this and that. But my base case is that by 2030, I would be very surprised if Bitcoin didn't hit $500,000 per coin. I would be disappointed if it didn't. And then you would really want to start kind of rethinking stuff because that would be a 4-year period between now, which is basically the end of the year. 2026 is 2 days away. We're 4 years away from 2030, the new decades, right? The 30s.
So wait, you're saying 4 years we see a 5 to 10x?
I would be very surprised if we didn't see a minimum of $500,000 per coin by 2030.
And they called you a bear.
I feel very strongly about that for a couple of reasons. I think, again, for Bitcoin to succeed, number go up is very important, right?
True.
From two perspectives. The biggest converter of believers of the biggest instrument that Bitcoin has to orange pill people is not its ideological characteristics. It is number go up. Without number go up, Bitcoin fails. Now, Satoshi was a genius. What he did with creating the cap supply of 21 million and then also the halving process, which cuts the rewards of miners by half, it kind of ensures that number go up. It's the number go up is built into the protocol. And then banking on the fact that Satoshi believed, as we believed, that nothing stops this train, governments are going to continue to print money, you know, Knut Svenholm's equation, infinity divided by 21 million, it's not rocket science, guys. It's not rocket science. So are you telling me that with gold basically mooning, right, an asset that is in the tens of trillions of dollars, are you trying to tell me that an asset that is less than $2 trillion isn't going to moon to that level? It's just going to be this slow grind up 20 to 30%. I don't see that. And that's what the consensus is right now. Everyone's lost hope. The parabolic years of Bitcoin are behind it.
Speak for yourself.
But Opti's holding the line.
Dude, I am like the last bullish person on YouTube. This is crazy.
Opti and Walker are holding the line, bro.
Yeah, shouts out to Walker. He really did a number on you.
Opti and Walker are holding the line. Anyways, guys, it's going to be a fantastic show. We have tons to cover today. Lots to talk about. But before we get into all that, guys, smash the like button. Consider subscribing to Simply Bitcoin. We got a hell of a show lined up for you guys. Some videos to react to, some breaking news that happened over the weekend that made quite a bit of a splash. I want to talk about it, and I want to talk about how Bitcoin truly fixes this. So anyways, we're going to be right back in just a sec, and we're going to hit the numbers. Let's check it out. Today's episode is brought to you by Bitcoin Well Infinite. If you're a serious Bitcoin buyer, you've probably hit the same wall. Most platforms make you give up custody just to play by the rules. Bitcoin Well Infinite fixes that. They're North America's only publicly traded, non-custodial OTC desk listed on the TSX Venture Exchange, which means transparent operations and zero counterparty risk.
You buy Bitcoin, you take immediate control, period. For trades over $50,000, you get a dedicated executive Bitcoin advisor, competitive spread starting at 1%, and immediate delivery straight to your own wallet. No custody risk, no withdrawal fees, just institutional grade execution with full asset control. If you want to buy Bitcoin the right way, book a free consultation at bitcoinwell.com/OTC or email infinite@bitcoinwell.com.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, StampSeed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed phrases really secure? StampSeed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need for you to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates instead of just writing them down on paper. Paper is fragile. Titanium plates are strong. Your words are actually stamped into the titanium plate with this hammer and these letter stamping tools. Once the words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They're also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and time-proof. And now you can customize your titanium seed plates. You can upload your design or logo, and they will laser engrave it on the back of your seed plate, the opposite side of where the words are. Stamp your seed on StampSeed and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the stampseed.com store. All right, everybody, we are back. If you guys are enjoying Simply Bitcoin Live, make sure to smash that like button. Send Opti a DM on X. He loves talking to you guys at Optimus Fields. Send him a message. Spark a conversation with him.
Please don't do that.
Why?
I don't check my DMs.
But what? You don't want to talk to everybody, Opti?
I talk to them here. Hit me in the chat. I talk to you right now live.
I think you guys should
yo, chill. Get to the numbers.
Okay. All right. So, let's talk about today's numbers. So, you guys know the deal. No, We haven't got to that part yet. At the time I recorded, the Bitcoin price is $88,300, block height 930,180, market cap 1.76 trillion, Bitcoin versus gold market cap 5.67%, decline from all-time high negative 30%. All right, everybody. So this is the type of video that would make Rustin like jump up and down in excitement, and I would call this Rustin's vindication video, because for a very long time, all the things that people that were sound money advocates that talked against central banking, we kept saying that there's a giant cabal on earth that controls money, the issuance of money, the flows of money, and we've been hypercritical on the central banking system. And part of today's news story is going to connect with this. It's all going to be about central banking. It's all going to be a critique on central banking. But I saw a video the other day of someone from the what's the name of the Rothschild family, basically saying the quiet part out loud. They said exactly what the book, The Creature from Jekyll Island, confirmed. They've been saying exactly what Rustin has been saying for a long time now. And they've been saying what we have believed internally here at Simply Bitcoin, but we just didn't believe the Overton window shifted enough for you to say that publicly. Now they're the hubris. They're saying it themselves. They're saying it openly. They're saying it publicly. And I find it fascinating. I find it quite interesting. So I'm going to play you guys the clip, and then we're going to talk about it. Literally the first time I saw it, I thought it was unbelievable. Let's check it out. And again, this lady is a member of the, how do you say it? Rothschild family. So let's check it out.
This is an extraordinary story. So he was born in a place called the Judengasse, which was a Jewish ghetto, basically. And it was the house that he lived in when he eventually had 13 children was only 14 feet wide. And he lived there with his very, very overpowering and dominant and an incredibly brilliant wife who was called Guttel. He was determined to get out of this ghetto. At nighttime, the ghetto was closed. You weren't allowed to leave. The street was so narrow that no sunlight could penetrate. There was no plumbing, there was no sewage, there was nothing. So everything you can imagine happened in this street. And unsurprisingly, he wanted to get out of there. And he started a small coin business, and that did reasonably well. But actually, and this is where it ties into legacy, his great strength was to send his 5 sons to the capitals of Europe at that time. And what they did is they set up, in effect, the first international banking system. So whereas everyone used to be in separate different countries or separate cities until then, these 5 boys communicated with each other, sometimes by pigeon, and they wrote to each other in Judendeutsche, which was a kind of Yiddish German vernacular. And that is why they were so successful. And this absolute belief in togetherness, you've got to stand together, you've got to work together, you've got to work across borders, you've got to work with rules. And by 1789, when the last one went, to 1815, so a very, very short period of time, it was said that no government or king would consider going to war without the Rothschilds supporting them, because that was how incredibly influential and powerful they had become.
I mean, like, we were called conspiracy theorists for saying that for a very long time, right? Like, think about what she just said, right? This family that, again, you know, Rustin would have a heyday, right? Being able to talk about this subject. Rustin, I hope you see
we should just send it to him and have him do a video.
Oh God. Oh God. And like, I remember Rustin saying this for like the longest time, right? And I would say, yeah, Rustin, you're right, bro. But like, Overton window, man, like, you know, like, this is not mainstream enough for us to talk about it. Like, dude, like, just wait. Never in a million years would I imagined a member of the Rothschild family. And I'm not saying they have as much power today as they do back then, but they're the architects. You can't deny that. They are the architects of this, because essentially what she admitted was that even though these countries were sovereign countries, think about how much power this family had for them to have that much influence on these countries that these countries wouldn't even consider going to war with each other without the blessing of this family, who nobody voted for. No one had. This isn't sovereignty, by the way. This is an ungodly amount of influence over people's lives. And so I see it, the comment on the screen. She's not confessing, she's bragging. LOL. 100%. 100%. There's a hubris there is wild. Now, let's put 2 and 2 together, because 5 years ago, this was a conspiracy theory. Today, it's being openly talked about, right? To think that central banks don't have as much influence on countries today than they did 100 or 200 years ago, I think you're incredibly naive to think that's not the case. Because, again, they have sole monopolies over the issuance of money. They have basic control, complete control over the ability for people to send and receive money. So to think that their power, the institutional power of central banking, of that system, has decreased since that era and not increased, I think is incredibly naive. And to believe that. And I'm going to give you a very basic example during the news section of something that happened. A video went viral over Twitter regarding some fraud that happened in Minneapolis. And I'm not going to get into the politics of it and kind of fall down into that rabbit hole, because that's not the type of channel we are. We're focused. We're a Bitcoin channel, meaning we're focused on optimism and providing you a solution as an individual to escape the system of central banking, right? So we're going to give you a Bitcoiner's perspective on what happened in Minneapolis, how it ties to central banking. But essentially, I think central banking is the worst thing that has happened, one of the worst things that has happened on planet Earth, and it has led to some of the biggest conflicts the world has ever seen. Therefore, it has led to some of the biggest atrocities the world has ever seen. And today, I think the only reason that Bitcoin even exists, and the only reason that the younger generations are starting to ask questions that older generations would say are just, why are you even asking that? This is how the system works, is because of the amount of despair and desperation that people are feeling. They feel like they can't get ahead. They feel like they can't save. They see the prices of real estate and they just keep going higher and higher and higher and higher. And I would agree with them. But again, that is because they've been pricing everything in dollars and not in Bitcoin. If you price everything in Bitcoin, actually everything has been getting cheaper, right? So again, you have a member of the Rothschild family admitting to the quiet part out loud of how much influence they had over supposed sovereign nations that were supposedly sovereign. That means that they were able to govern themselves. And if by definition you have to ask one family who controls all the major banks in Europe for their blessing in order to go to war with another country, if you have to ask permission from that family has a tremendous amount of unaccountable power, right? And to think that that influence has not maintained itself I'm not saying this particular family, but that system in general has not maintained itself over the last 100 or 200 years, I think you're incredibly naive. Some parts of early American history, I mean, you had presidents like Andrew Jackson who literally ran on campaigns. He was almost assassinated on campaigns on ending the central bank, and he was successful on ending the second American central bank. It wasn't until 1913, in the day before Christmas, that they were able to basically sneak in the third version of the American central bank, which we've been living in since then, which World War I has happened since then. World War II has happened since then. The Great Recession has happened since then. The Great Depression has happened since then. So the very mandate, the very justification, right? Also the introduction of the income tax in the United States, which again was introduced the same year that central banking was introduced, right? So all of those things, the central banking was sold to the American public to remove uncertainty in the markets, right? That they would take care of inflation, that they would take care of employment. I think they've utterly failed in those mandates, and it's given an undue amount of power to politicians and to central bankers. And I think that they've been using that system to enrich themselves at the cost of the middle and lower classes. That's my theory of the case. Bitcoin obviously fixes this. Bitcoin is middle class money, but dude, I'm going to send the video to Rustin before I pass it to Opti.
Well, you know what's the most interesting? It's like, this has been very public knowledge, I think, for a long time. Obviously, if you read The Creature from Jekyll Island, I read that when I was like 18. And at the time, it did feel like a crazy conspiracy theory, right? But it's all factual. You know, it's historically documented that this is the case. What I find the most interesting in the recent years, in the last couple of years, if you brought up this kind of idea, you were being labeled as a conspiracy theory. And now we have, you know, a Rothschild basically bragging about it. And the irony isn't lost on me that it's at like Meet the Legacies, which is obviously, you know, why she's there and what they have a great legacy, whether you like it or not. Like, you know, they fundamentally changed the world. But it is interesting that even when I found this, even though it was historically documented, it's not just in The Creature from Jekyll Island. You can find it in a lot of places. It still felt like a conspiracy, even though it was like facts. And then later, you know, once I realized, oh, you know, I'm not crazy. This isn't just some quack idea on the internet. It just became kind of like a known fact to me. Like, this is one of the reasons why I always feel like I was meant to be a Bitcoiner, is because right when I went to college, I found The Creature from Jekyll Island. And then by happenstance, one of my philosophy teachers was talking about The Creature from Jekyll Island. I'm like, oh, adults talk about this, so this must not be that crazy after all. Fast forward 10, 15 years, and it kind of got formed and morphed into, oh, if you talk about this, then you're a conspiracy theorist. And now, you know, they're bragging about it. And it really reminds me of one of Bitcoiners' favorite quotes, which is, I believe it's Nathan Rothschild, or at least it's attributed to him. And it's the idea, or I'm gonna butcher the quote, but it's something on the lines of, give me control of a nation's money and I care not who makes the laws. And it's still amazing to me that most people don't know that this is the case. That, yeah, maybe it's because, you know, like a public school student like myself, we're not really taught, you know, the best history of things, or we're just told a certain narrative so that we can be good, you know, worker bees. But it's still amazing to me that most people don't understand that this happened, that this is the case, that this is how the world actually works. And here we are in 2025, at the tail end of 2025, and now it's on CNBC, and it's just kind of like it's being applauded. It's like, yes, this is a great thing. You know, this is why you are so wonderful and smart and powerful, is because of a small fateful move. Though on the flip side, it really shows you why all of us, especially as millennials, and I would even say that, you know, Gen Xers out there, but especially the Zoomers, millennials, you could even argue the Boomers as well. Like, this is why our purchasing power has been decimated. This is why a lot of people are nihilistic and destitute. A lot of people don't think there is hope, is because there's a huge club and we're not in it. And this is where Bitcoin comes in. You know, Bitcoin flips the game upside down, flips the chess table upside down so that you can actually save in something, that you can actually level up. You can change the trajectory of your bloodline, of your fellow generations behind you. Is literally all you need to do is save in something that they cannot print more of, that they cannot control, that you... all you got to do is just start saving and accumulating, essentially playing the same game. All you need to do is, as they like to say, hoard assets, which the only asset you should be hoarding is Bitcoin. And this is how you escape the matrix, you escape the game, you finally leave that system and you join a better system of a better money.
Yeah, I mean, the question also too is like, is gold performing the way it has performing and silver performing the way it's been performing? Is that like a precursor to what is going to happen to Bitcoin? Because I think the only reason that gold and silver have been performing the way that they've been performing is because people are losing faith on fiat money, right? Like, I don't see why else they would go parabolic the way they have in the last year, unless Wall Street is messing with us. Like, unless Wall Street was basically like, you know what would be a good trade? Let's stop suppressing silver and gold. Let's suppress Bitcoin. That will confuse the hell out of them. They're going to lose all their hope by getting outperformed by the 10,000-year-old bar of metal. And then I don't know. I'm going down a rabbit hole that perhaps isn't real.
Is that a tinfoil Viking hat?
No, this is a real Viking hat. I'm a Viking warrior right now, bro.
No, but all right. Anyways. Big Wig got it. Big Wig got it in the chat. Nico doesn't get the joke. Anyways.
All right. So, did you comment on the video though?
Yeah, I did.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, I did. While you were putting the Viking hat on, I was talking.
Do you know that lady?
I mean, I know her now.
Do you think she's friends with Chrissy?
Definitely friends with Chrissy. They both got posh accents. They're totally at dinner club drinking tea together.
100%.
Yeah, I might have seen her over at Chrissy's. Yeah. I might have met her.
You definitely met her before. You
Yeah.
crossed paths with her before.
I know. I should have gone with her, not Chrissy. To be honest.
Dude. Chrissy works for her.
I know. Fact. Honestly, big facts.
All right, everybody. It's going to be a fantastic show. We have tons to cover. We're going to get into this videos coming out of Minneapolis. The content creator goes by the name of Nick Shirley. I think that's how you pronounce his name.
I'm catching up with this, but I believe that's his name.
Anyway, this video went absolutely viral, and it was uncovering a bunch of fraud.
Wait, yo, take the hat off. Oh wait, no, there you're good. It's zooming. It's focusing on the hat.
And it was uncovered a bunch of fraud, and everyone's reacting to the video, and they're very upset, and they're like, hey, like why should I do this? Like, I don't understand. Like, and my base case is this will always happen. This will happen no matter what, as long as fiat money and central banking exists. It's the incentive structure that's broken. If you don't fix the incentive structure, this is destined to repeat itself over and over and over and over again. So if you don't address the root cause, everything else is like putting a Band-Aid on the problem. All right, everybody, let's get to the news. We have tons to cover. We're going to be right back in just a bit.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, Ledin, the leader in Bitcoin-backed loans. Unlock the liquidity in your Bitcoin without having to sell your Bitcoin. They've issued $9 billion in loans to over 10,000 customers since 2018. I absolutely love these guys. Not only do I have an account with them, but I also have a loan. And what I love about them is that there are no monthly payments, and you could pay back the loan at any time. As soon as you send your Bitcoin as collateral, you'll have cash in your account within 24 hours. Over 1,000 five-star customer reviews, and they've never lost a single dollar or sat of customer money. Go to learn.ledin.io/simply today, and you'll get 0.25% off your first loan. I want to give a shout out to our partner, sat123.com. Sovereignty isn't just about your money. It's about your communications too. When the grid goes down, Most people go dark. Cell towers fail in hurricanes, cyber attacks, and blackouts. But satellite phones? They don't rely on local infrastructure. Iridium has 77 satellites in orbit, giving you a direct line anywhere in the US, even offshore. If you hold your own Bitcoin keys, you should hold your own comms too. Sat123.com also has everything you need to start building your Bitcoin citadel. Starlink, battery backups, Faraday bags to protect your hardware wallets, and much, much more. It's a one-stop shop for anyone serious about resilience and off-grid independence. Stay connected, stay independent, stay sovereign. Go to sat123.com/simply today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the store. I want to give a shout out to our partner, BitKey. If you already self-custody your Bitcoin, you know the deal with hardware wallets by now. Complex setups, clumsy interfaces, and a seed phrase that can be lost, stolen, or forgotten. BitKey fixes that. BitKey is a multi-sig hardware wallet built by the team behind Square and Cash App. It packs a cryptographic recovery system and built-in inheritance feature into an intuitive, easy-to-use wallet with no seed phrase to sweat over. It's simple, secure, self-custody without the stress. Time named BitKey one of the best inventions of 2024. Get 20% off at bitkey.world. That's BITKEY.world with the code SIMPLY.
All right, everybody, we are back. And for some reason, I'm not showing myself as full screen. That's much better. Guys, go to bitkey.world, scan the QR code on your screen, get 20% off using promo code SIMPLY. Again, 20% off using promo code SIMPLY. One of the easiest hardware wallets, no, the easiest hardware wallets to use on the market today. All right, let's jump into today's featured story, ladies and gentlemen. I do want to cover this because, again, it made quite the buzz when it dropped. So here's Nick Shirley. Nick Shirley is a 23-year-old YouTuber that posted a video over the weekend, essentially, or 4 days ago, uncovering over $100 million in fraud. And if you're thinking, Nico, you're being hyperbolic or you're being crazy or this makes no sense, I plead you to go watch the video, right? By the way, a couple of things that I want to connect the dots for you guys here on. We have big problems if a 23-year-old with a camera and a YouTube channel is doing better investigative journalism than entire news outlets whose sole purpose is to supposedly deliver the news, and a 23-year-old with a YouTuber is doing a better job at just that. The reason Simply Bitcoin got here today is I remember vividly the first couple of years of our existence. I remember looking at Opti and I was like, dude, like, I think we're journalists right now. Because I remember under the Biden administration when you heard stuff like there's going to be no inflation and just like the insanity of it, there was no, and I'm not trying to talk us up because, again, there was no other Bitcoin live show or daily live show, but like, it was insane to me that there was no one else reporting on what was actually going on as it related to Bitcoin. And again, this is the power of social media. The fact that one individual journalist, one highly motivated 23-year-old kid basically went outside with a camera and a simple microphone and literally went door to door and started digging in to where all this money, $110 million, and that's just only one day of work, where all of that money supposedly went, right? And remember, this is your money. If you are a taxpayer in the United States, this is your money, right? And I really don't want to kind of get into like the politics of it and stuff like that because we're not that type of channel. But think about it. Like, think about how hard you work and what you need to do to pay your taxes. Think about all of the stuff you need to do in order to fulfill that law, right? The law of the land. Simultaneously, there is absolutely no accountability on what the government does with that tax money at the end. There's none. It doesn't exist. So there's accountability for citizens to pay taxes, but there's almost zero accountability for what the government does with your tax money. There's something inherently wrong with the system. The Pentagon failed its 8th audit in a row. It's not a coincidence that they ran Elon out of town with the whole Doge thing, and then they shut it down. That's not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence that it took a 23-year-old kid for him to make a video and for that video to go viral, for then only then for the government to actually respond and actually do something about it. Here's the official statement from the Attorney General, Pam Bondi. I know Opti's a huge fan. Nick Shirley's work has helped show Americans the scale of fraud in Tim Walz, Minnesota. Mind you, again, not to be political or anything, Tim Walz was very close from becoming the vice president of the United States. The Justice Department has been investigating this for months. Of course, they have to say that. So far, we have charged 98 individuals, and I don't want to get into the rest of the part. But again, and then you hear all the, like, you have an official statement by the vice president, you have an official statement by senators, you have an official statement from, like, you know, the Speaker of the House. It's like, newsflash, you guys have been in power for the past year, bro. Like, it's like you guys are the ones in power, like going on Twitter and saying, we're aware of the situation, we're doing something about it. It's like you guys are literally the only ones that have the capacity, like from a legal perspective, to do something about it. Like the fact that a 23-year-old kid broke this type of news and no other legacy media institution that has much bigger budgets was not able to break this news tells me that there's a very tiny club and we're not in that club. That's what that tells me. Here's a screenshot. I'm sure it's been updated since then. None of these news outlets reported on this, especially when it just dropped. And the amount of money that's being sent, guys, I highly recommend you guys checking out this video. The amount of money that is being sent to these child care centers without any sort of verification as to whether they were actually child care centers is insanity. And if you take a look at where the media has reported on this, I'm assuming not all of CNBC is taking this stance, but I'm going to read some of the things that have been said. The polarization of the DOJ and the FBI is undeniable. So whether they are reliable narrators is the big question. And this is what happens when you weaponize and politicize federal agencies that are not meant to be politicized. And I think the American people are right to ask the question, well, can we trust you? The Somali population in Minnesota, those people are being scapegoated, and that community is being scapegoated in a way that certainty serves the far right. This isn't about left or right. Watch the video. Watch the video. Watch the video. It is insanity. And again, 127 million views, 624 likes. And legacy media is basically trying to gaslight you and telling you that, hey, look, what you see in front of you is not real. That's what they're saying, right? Here's Marty Bent's take on it. And he says, we're at the loot the treasury stage of empire collapse. And people are looking for regulatory clarity from the people doing the looting. More effort should be spent exposing these people as criminals instead of trying to appease them. The U.S. is not my words, by the way. The U.S. government isn't, I don't know if I could say that, but basically Marty Bent is making the case that
yeah, read the last tweet though. Kind of a banger.
Marty Bent, quote, the regulatory clarity you seek will make it so that they can loot your Bitcoin. Next post by Marty Bent. I don't know if I could read this. I can't read that, but you could see it on screen. I can read this. And then I'll connect it with a quote by Andrew Jackson, who successfully ended the second American central bank. The fraud will continue until we separate money from the state. It's a symptom of the misalignment of incentives created by central banking. Any attempt to fix it without addressing the root cause is a half measure, and this only gets worse. So the reason that it took a viral video for the Attorney General to even acknowledge this was happening, it took a viral video for the FBI to even acknowledge this was happening. The reason that they ran Elon Musk out of town, I believe, is because Washington does not want you to know this. And I think to think that, I don't want to be specific on the origin and where these, whatever. To think that this all didn't happen and there weren't any types of kickbacks to people higher, up the totem pole, and it was just this level of fraud committed at an industrial scale by hundreds of individuals, and to think that there was no awareness by the upper echelons of power, and the governor happened to be the person who was running for vice president. If you think that there was no types of benefit, listen, there's a reason some of these politicians that make $172,000 per year supposedly end up with tens of millions of dollars of net worth. There's a reason for that, right? And this is what Marty Bent is talking about in this tweet when he was referencing the looting, right? So we're a solution-based, forward-looking show. And my response to this is, again, you have to fix the sickness. If you don't fix the cause, it won't fix anything. You're not going to change anything. You're going to end up with the status quo. You're going to end up with a situation like Elon, where he goes in there, he exposes the fraud, one law gets passed, and then they kick him out of town, right? They say, go home, basically. You're going to have that situation again. And fundamentally, it's a very simple, and I'm going to make it very simple for you guys. As long as the government has the ability to create money for free that everyone else has to work for, there is absolutely zero incentives for accountability of that money. And put taxes aside, because just revenue tax aside is not enough for the yearly federal budget in the United States. So even if you put that aside for a second, when they print money, that is a form of taxation. You are indirectly paying for all of this. If you want to know why you can't get ahead, if you want to know why things keep getting more expensive, if you want to know why rent, groceries, everything gets more expensive around you, this is why. This is literally why. You can't vote yourself out of this. You cannot do it. We had the strongest coalition, I think, in American politics in many decades. You had the first Republican to win the popular vote in 20 years. You had a mixed coalition of moderate Democrats like Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr. You had J.D. Vance go in there, right? You had this fantastic lineup of people that were going to go in there and supposedly fight for the middle class and supposedly to put America first. Newsflash, it's been a year. The price of Bitcoin is lower. This entire year, we did not get those things. We got more foreign wars. We got the continuation of wars. We got this type of stuff. And I'm sorry, from a voter's perspective, I'm looking at that. I'm very grateful for the for ending Operation Choke Point Up. Let's see, Samurai Wallet guys are still in prison. I'm very grateful for Ross Ulbricht being freed. I'm very grateful for that. I'm not saying I'm not grateful, but like, dude, this isn't cool, right? So anyways, here is Andrew Jackson. And he says, this is one of his quotes from, again, a lot of Andrew Jackson's presidency was running against the very idea of an American central bank. And this is his quote: "Gentlemen, I too have been a close observer of the doings of the Bank of the United States. I have had men watching you for a long time. And I am convinced that you have used the funds of the bank to speculate in the breadstuffs of the country. When you won, you divided the profits amongst you. And when you lost, you charge it to the bank. You tell me that if I take the deposits from the bank and annul its charter, I shall ruin 10,000 families." We've heard that before. We've heard that before. Where have we heard that before? Remember what happened when they ended USAID? Remember what says, oh my God, people are going to lose their this and that. And remember, that was the same art. We've heard this before. That may be true, gentlemen, but that is your sin. Should I let you go on, you will ruin 50,000 families. And that would be my sin. You are a den of vipers and thieves, and I have determined to rout you out. And by the eternal, bringing his fist down on the table, I will rout you out. It's a very strong line. Now, check this out. The bank is trying to kill me, but I will kill it. Interesting. So again, many quotes related to this. So if you guys saw this story break over the weekend, and you guys saw the video, which I'm assuming a lot of you have, I hope that this is a new and fresh perspective for you, because if you think that either Team Blue or Team Red or tagging the Attorney General or tagging the FBI or tagging your senator or tagging your representative is going to change any of this, you are completely naive. I'm not saying everyone is corrupt, but what I'm trying to say is DC benefits tremendously from being able to issue its own money. And a symptom of that power are situations like this. So I'm going to end it like that. I'm going to pass it on to Opti. Opti, you didn't even know this story existed.
Yeah. Well,
you should definitely check out that video because it is effing bonkers, bro.
Yeah. So, as you guys know, I was on a semi-vacation last week, and I saw kind of the fallout of this video over the weekend, but I was really off Twitter, so I haven't actually watched the video, so I can't really comment on what the video was saying. But I did see a lot of people talking about it, and it did kind of spark a whole conversation. I think one of the things that I saw that was very interesting is people started diving into other states, and I think that really highlights the kind of general trend, which we're seeing in this year is I really agree with the Marty Bent tweet of we are at the loot the treasury stage of an empire collapsing or an empire crumbling. And it's not just on one side. I would argue it's on all sides of the aisle here. It doesn't matter what side you are on. There is a lot of corruption in the system, and a lot of the people that are in the system are just there to continue the status quo. And one of the tweets that I saw that was very interesting, and now I kind of get the context of it, and I think I kind of got the context when I was reading the tweet, but they were making a parallel to the Roman Empire and how where we are right now has a complete parallel to the very end of the Roman Empire, where it was basically being controlled by an oligarchy, and all the laws and everything that they did had this rhetoric of it was for the people, but in reality, all they were doing is just passing laws and maintaining the status quo so that they can kind of fill their own coffers and they can get richer. And we saw what happened with the Roman Empire. Now, I'm not saying that's exactly where we are right now, but as the saying goes, history repeats, or history rhymes. It doesn't often repeat, or I'm butchering that right now. But anyways, I think one of the general trends and themes that I've seen this year, and maybe it's just because we're Bitcoiners and a lot of the stuff we kind of already know, whether inherently or because we've done the research, but what is becoming very clear for, I think, a lot of people is one, they're starting to lose faith in the institutions. Now, from a Bitcoiner's perspective, maybe from a more anarcho-capitalist perspective, you probably lost faith in the institutions a long time ago, and now just mainstream's kind of catching up to it. The second thing that I believe a lot of people kind of go through is you look at what's going on, you look at the system, and you kind of like point and sputter. You're like, it is so corrupt, it's failed. I think what's becoming more obvious to people is that maybe this was all designed this way from the start, or maybe not from the start, but it got corrupted along the way, and the system is just being, it's just perpetuating itself.
No, it's an architectural flaw.
Yeah, you're going that far.
Yes, it's an architectural flaw, dude. This is like part of the tweet. Like, look, Bitcoin breaks the cycle, right? Like, you're talking about like kind of like the early, like the Roman Empire, how like at the very end, like the elites were just like morally corrupt, and then
just stealing everything, passing laws for their own favor.
What did the end of the Roman Empire do? What did the Romans do? They debased what?
The denarius, their currency.
They debased their currency, right? So again, I'm making the argument, what happened basically in Weimar, right? What did they do? They debased the currency.
They debased the currency.
So what I'm trying to say is that we have an opportunity using Bitcoin, the technology, the protocol, to break the cycle, to finally break this never-ending cycle that I think is part of the human condition. I think that as long as a human being has the ability to print money, I don't care how elite they are, I don't care how powerful they are going to abuse that system to benefit themselves and to not only enrich themselves, but to make sure that they retain power. I think what Bitcoiners fundamentally understand is that system, no one deserves that power. And if they have that power, they will abuse that power. So Bitcoin is a system that has rules without rulers. No, it doesn't matter how powerful you are. If you want more Bitcoin, you have to mine it like everybody else. It doesn't matter how powerful you are. You can't censor someone else's transaction. It doesn't mean how powerful you are. You can't seize someone else's funds. It doesn't matter how powerful you are. You can't debase Bitcoin. It has a cap supply, period. So it has rules without rulers. We live in a system where the rulers, as Marty Bent pointed out, are the people. And this is where I think the virality of this video, the energy was like it was misguided. because as Marty Bent pointed out, right, and as I pointed out as well, again, the way he said it was perfect. I'm going to read the parts I can read. The regulatory clarity you seek will make it so that they can loot your Bitcoin. And before that, he says, we are at the loot of the treasury stage of the empire collapse, and people are looking for regulatory clarity from the people doing the looting. More effort should be spent exposing these people as criminals instead of trying to appease them. Right? It's a very strong message, but if you think about it and if you internalize it, ladies and gentlemen, if you do not address the root cause of this, the fraud, the misallocation of capital is going to continue to happen at an ever accelerated pace. It has happened every single time throughout human history. Once you get to the end of an empire, that's what happens, right? That's what happens. The moral decay of society, the debasement of the currency, it's an inevitability. What I'm trying to say is if we switch to a Bitcoin standard, the Bitcoin protocol has its rules. They're set in stone. They can't be changed. And for the first time in human history, we have the ability to break the ability to break the pattern that keeps on repeating itself. And I think it's human nature. I think it will repeat itself as long as people have that power. Anyways, everybody, let's get to the culture. We have tons to talk about. We're going to be right back in just a bit.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technologies. Fueled by clean energy, HIVE has quadrupled its global Bitcoin mining footprint and channels that same scale into high-performance compute, where their AI cloud is now ranked #1 in the world for network performance. At HIVE, you've got dual engines, Bitcoin and AI humming, roaring, accelerating in unison. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're rewriting the playbook on sustainable digital infrastructure. You can catch the latest buzz at Hive Digital Tech or at hivedigitaltech.com. I want to give a shout out to our partner, bitcoinben.io. If you're into freedom, Bitcoin, and building a real community, this is for you. Gain exclusive access to real-world, members-only, private clubs across the globe, featuring poker nights, expert-led classes, co-working spaces, educational meetups, live events, and more. Current locations include Sarasota, Nashville, Boston, Dallas, Las Vegas, and St. Louis, with new clubs launching soon in West Palm Beach, Scottsdale, Alabama, and beyond. Not to mention Bitcoin Ben's resorts in El Salvador. There's 3 of them, and they're absolutely beautiful. You'll also get access to the first fully backed Bitcoin bank with fiat ramps and savings accounts. It's called Private Key Bank. And you guessed it, it's based out of El Salvador. Go peer-to-peer with Bitcoin bulk buys. Tap into home equity for long-term Bitcoin growth. And join their exclusive mining pools if you're interested in mining. What are you waiting for? Head over to bitcoinben.io. Join today, where Bitcoin meets freedom.
Dude, are we gonna talk about that? No, I actually quickly want to talk about kind of like an observation, and it kind of does connect with what we were just talking about. But as you guys know, I was off last week. It's probably the first week I've kind of really unplugged in, I don't know, like 3 years. And it kind of opened my eyes a lot, because obviously, as we all know, we're like in an echo chamber, Bitcoin echo chamber. You know, we're all perpetually online. We're all perpetually on Twitter. We're all, you know, watching the same stuff. We're all kind of in sync on what's going on in the world. And for like the first week, really, I like pretty much almost completely unplugged. I did kind of help out on the show a little bit, but as you can tell, you know, I wasn't really on Twitter, and I was kind of avoiding it on purpose. And it really kind of highlighted something to me, where obviously my family is not like, you know, everyone out there, but I was starting to notice kind of the difference where like I'd pop on Twitter and it was just like doomer, black pill, the world falling, everything's over, you know, burn it all down type rhetoric. And then, of course, maybe it's just because it was like holidays. Yeah, I'd hang out with my family, and they're completely oblivious to all this stuff. Everyone's just trying to have a good time. You know, I would say things, and they would just like not understand what I was saying. And it was really highlighting to me just like how perpetually online we are. And like you were saying, you know, I saw the tweet of I think it was Don Jr. basically saying like someone has to go to jail, and everyone's like, yo, bro, your dad's the president. Like go talk to your dad, bro. And you know, so when you're perpetually online, you kind of realize, or you forget to realize, you forget the perspective of what the normie everyday person is seeing, what they're ingesting, what kind of content they're into. And it really just kind of shows that there is like this, you know, fork in the road right now. And Nico and I, we were talking about this before I left, how like I forget how we were framing it, but like the information war, there's like a two-tiered system here where some people know what's going on or think they know what's going on. The other side is just completely oblivious, like completely clueless of what's happening. But another little interesting thing happened while I was away. I was wearing the Satoshi shirt. I think you guys might have saw it like at the Friday that I left. And I just wore it. I went to go get some lunch. I was you know, putting some gas in my parents' car, and some random dude just yells like I thought he said like Nancy, like Nancy, and I'm like, what the hell is he saying? Like, who's he yelling at? And I like look back at him, and he's like Satoshi, like Satoshi. And I think that's the first time back home that I've had just like a stranger yell at me about like some Bitcoin merch that I was wearing. And it really kind of made me think, it's like we are so perpetually online. We're so much in the Bitcoin echo chamber, whether you're in like the political Twitter or whatever, Bitcoin or just Bitcoin Twitter. We kind of forget like what the normies think. And for a while, it was kind of a badge of honor where we're like, who cares what they think, bro? Like, we're right. But what that little moment kind of made me think is like, look, our job or what we try to do here is obviously we love YouTube. We're trying to get Bitcoin to as many people on YouTube as possible. Hence why some of you guys freak out on us and like, yo, just say it. But the goal is to get Bitcoin in front of people that would never see Bitcoin, that are never on Bitcoin Twitter. And that little moment just kind of showed me, it's like, oh, like this Bitcoin thing is spreading. Like we haven't hit a mania phase yet because, of course, number go up. It hasn't happened this year. But I think more and more people are starting to become a little more open to Bitcoin. I was talking with one of my friend's little brothers, and he works at a very big bank. Well, the banks you guys know, so one of the big four, or I guess it might be big five. And like we were all talking about Bitcoin, and he's like, oh, dude, no major bank is allowing, you know, Bitcoin to be sold to their customers. And I'm like, bro, it's like happening right as we speak. Like, what are you talking about? Like, you should know this. It's like they're all selling ETFs now. They're all trying to do Bitcoin custodies. They're trying to do Bitcoin backed loans. And so it just really highlights the divide between the cutting edge information that we all ingest constantly. We're all on Twitter. We're all on YouTube. You know, this is what we're obsessed about, and kind of what the average person understands about what is happening in the moment. And it really kind of highlights this idea that most people don't really look for new information. They're just kind of ingesting the confirmation bias to perpetuate the status quo of what they know. And that's, I think, kind of the bigger picture of everything going on right now, is like there's people that go out there and research and, you know, get into the weeds, and they dive into controversial topics, and they really try to find the truth. And then there's other people that they're just like, look, I'm happy with what I'm doing, with what I'm at. I don't need to search for other stuff. And, you know, what we try to do, what I hope we do, is not just talk to other Bitcoiners that already know this, that are obsessed with Bitcoiners, that are obsessed with Bitcoin, but we try to do our show in such a way that if someone came in, then maybe they start to understand why we do what we do, why we think this is the revolutionary technology, why we think this is going to change the world. And yes, as some of you guys have noticed, it does kind of lead us into different topics that aren't necessarily just Bitcoin. But I think this is how we are able to tailor this message moving forward so that more people do get into Bitcoin. At least that's my hope.
Yeah, I mean, dude, and like we're gonna keep, and I like, I'm looking at the.
You're all ill.
I was looking at the chat like while we were doing that story in the earlier bit, and I kind of really liked the reaction, and like the reaction was basically like some the people that were commenting was basically something along the lines of like, what does this have to do with about Bitcoin? You guys are wrong. Why are you talking about politics? Like stuff like that. Like, we're going to continue to highlight this because I don't think you guys truly understand or appreciate. I'm not saying everybody who's watching, I'm sure a lot of you guys do, but the role that money plays in society is absolutely massive, right? If you have broken money, you have a broken society. Full stop, right? The more the money breaks, the more society breaks, the less people are able to plan into the future. Like everything just like the larger wealth inequality becomes, which again leads to more social unrest. So to think the two aren't related is dumb. It's stupid, right? And we're going to continue to highlight that because money itself is inherently political. Bitcoin, you could say, is apolitical. It's apolitical. It's an apolitical protocol. That's a very strong argument. I agree with it. However, the consequence of the world on a Bitcoin standard is very political, especially from where we are today, how society structures itself, how society organizes itself. But I think that you're never going to have politicians working for your own interests until we migrate to a true Bitcoin standard. Until then, you're going to see this level of fraud. You're going to see this level of disconnection. And again, we've been right way more often than we've been wrong, even if it takes like 9 months for the reality to catch up, right? So
we're always right. We just might not be right now.
So like right now, you might call us crazy and you might, say this and this and that, but I'm telling you, we were the first people. We were the first. Now I kind of regret it. I wish Kaka and Kamala.
Yo, chill.
Chill. But no, that's fucked up. Ross wouldn't be freed. So
Brain part. Yeah, just wrap up the show.
But we have to bring this up. Like we have to bring this up. We have to talk about it. We have to highlight it because I want you guys to have a different perspective, and I want you guys to understand how much of a critical role you guys have in this revolution. Right? This is a peaceful revolution. It's about individuals reclaiming back their financial sovereignty via Bitcoin, via taking Bitcoin into self-custody. But if you choose not to participate, if you choose to sit on the sidelines and just be an observer and then tag, oh my God, look at the fraud that just happened, bro. Like, this is crazy. Let's tag my representative. Let's tag my senator. Let's tag the attorney general. It's like, listen, what Opti said regarding Eric Trump, it's like, oh my God, discovered. I can't believe there's this level of fraud. The Speaker of the House, it's like, oh my God, what he was doing was so bad.
It's like, you're in power,
the Attorney General's like, yes, we've been investigating this, and there's already 98 people that have been arrested. And the FBI guys is like, there's much more to come, and blah, blah, blah. It's like, listen, like, you guys are literally fucking posting on social media. Like, we literally elected you so that you would do something. And this year, I'm telling you.
Wait, can I add to this? Hey, yo, JD Vance, I don't want to tweet. Go down the hall and talk to Trump. What are we doing here?
Yeah, like people should be in prison for this. Like, it's horrible what happened. Still, there hasn't been anything. And I have a theory. It's because I think they're in on this. Not Trump or JD or like even look at Opti's face. Why'd I even bring that up? But I think a lot of the people in DC benefit from the money printer. That's really what it comes down to, right? So anyways, guys, we love you all. We're going to wrap up the show there. If you guys enjoyed the show, you know what to do. Smash the like button. Consider subscribing. We're going to be back tomorrow for a brand new episode of Simply Bitcoin Live. Take it easy. Bye.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.